All right. So I just want to say hello to all the folks that are here in person. Thanks for making it out. All the people we have virtually, thank you for making it. We're thrilled. We have a great presentation today. We have Mark Cruth in from Atlassian. He's now my officially favorite Atlassian. I got to spend some time with him this week. He came to help us out. That's okay. Dom never comes out. So and Mark is a work futurist from Atlassian. So he's going to talk to us about the state of teams that Atlassian put together for 2022 and how to put together kick-ass teams. So without keeping you waiting any longer, I'm going to turn over to Mark and have a wonderful time, folks.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. All right. Thank you, folks. All right. Yeah. And just to double check, for those on Zoom, could you just someone give like a thumbs up to in your camera or in chat, and we'll check real quick just to make sure you guys can hear me. You can hear it? Beautiful. I got to see a thumbs up. All right. So yeah, my name is Mark Cruth. I am from Detroit. I came here for actually a event with Danny yesterday, and I said, hey, I'm going to be here. Like, let's do a community event. I love doing these things. And my role at Atlassian is I'm a modern work designer, kind of like a work futurist, but I like to joke that, I don't like playing in the future. I like playing in the now, the modern. And so that's always a fun little gab back and forth with my boss, Dom. And so today I wanted to talk with you about some research that we've been doing into essentially the state of teamwork around the world. And this particular session is going to be focused in on this idea of what makes a legendary team, because some of the stuff what we've been doing has kind of come out to show some of these qualities, these attributes that make a legendary team. So big things out of today is, again, I want to go through and I want to make sure that I get my clicker going. I want to make sure you guys have an idea of like what this state of teams is all about. I want to share with you that because that's something not a lot of people know about, but it's got some great data, some great insights in it. I'm going to give you some of the ideas and some of our findings from the report, just so you can get a high level of that. And then most importantly, I think this is the payload, right? This is what makes a legendary team. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So that'll be, and throughout this, we're going to be doing a lot of activities. I do like to talk, but I know you guys don't like having someone talk to you the whole time. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a ton of activities throughout this. So just get prepared to move around. You get uncomfortable. It's going to be great, right? That's why we're here. So for our folks on the phone, I actually do want to talk about an experiment we're going to do. And those in the room, you'll actually be able to see this. It's you won't be able to experiment with it, but you can kind of get a glimpse of what we're going to do with our remote participants. But we're going to use a cool tool that Atlassian is invested in called Welo. And what Welo is, it's a product that allows participants to kind of, again, join a Zoom, but have this idea of physical space they work within. And so for a lot of our participants, and actually I'm going to switch over to it just so we can take a look at it real quick. For our participants out there, if you are on the phone, you will see you have likely landed in a spot. And so this is going to be, and this is something where you've landed in a spot. So we've got little icons here at the bottom. You've likely found yourself in a spot in the area. What you can do now is anywhere in the green space, this is areas where you're in the main room of our Zoom. So feel free to click around throughout the green space inside the circle, and you can see yourself move around. The whole idea is to build in this idea of proximity. And a lot of times in our remote world, we struggle with this idea of like, hey, we're all playing Hollywood squares and I can't make that human connection. The whole goal of this is to help build some of that human connection. So as you're in there, go ahead and click around in that space. You'll also notice around the outskirts are these rooms 1 through like 40 that are there. These are actually breakout rooms built in from Zoom, and you can move in and out of those rooms easily. All you got to do is click on a chair, double click on that, and you'll see yourself move into that room. When you're done, move back into the green space. What we're going to do for our breakout activities for those in Zoom, you're going to go in and I'll instruct you to actually move into those breakout rooms while we're going through this. So when we get into an activity, I'll say, hey, go grab a room, find someone else who's in a room and do that activity. And we'll actually experiment with that here in a moment with our icebreaker. So throughout the exercises, if any of the material you need access to for our folks on Zoom, you'll notice at the in the middle of the screen, it says main session and it has a 9 with a folder. If you click on that, there's actually a ton of resources for all the activities we're going to do. So you'll get a link to the state of teams. You'll get access to each of the exercise descriptions. So that way you have an idea of how to participate in this. So again, just a really cool tool. I know recently they've announced that this is going to be packaged in with Zoom. So Zoom is invested in this company too, and it's just something I have a passion for because I love how it can help bridge that gap. Because in the last couple of years being on Zoom calls, it's hard, right? It's just hard to build that connection. So this is something that edges it a little bit forward. So if you got questions on there, put them in chat. A couple things to note for those who are out there in Zoom, a couple tips and tricks before we continue on to our icebreaker. Things to think about is if you want, again, to move to another room, just double click on an empty seat in any of the rooms and you'll move to that breakout room. When you're done, you'll move out of that breakout room to the green space. If you pop out the chat, your screen may disappear from that view. So simply go back to the apps in Zoom to do that. And if you close or lose Zoom or wheel at any point, just again, go to your apps and it will pop back up there in the bottom bar. All right. And so if you have any questions, just go ahead, put it in chat too, and we'll be answering those throughout the time. All right. So enough logistics, enough of that fun stuff. Let's go in and we're going to do an icebreaker. So I like to do this one where when we go in, a lot of times we go to these sessions and, we might actually have questions that we would like to have answered, or like something we're curious about. Like I met some folks, especially when I'm coming into a new place, I'm like, all right, where do I go? Where do I go to get the best, burger, or where do I go to get a good beer, like at 9 o'clock at night? And I don't know. And so I would say, hey, that's my icebreaker question. And so what I want you to do is I want you all to take a second and think about what's one icebreaker question that you'd like to ask just somebody here. You're meeting a bunch of people for the first time. What's an icebreaker question you would like to ask? So take a second, think of that question. I'll give you a few seconds and just kind of ponder, what do I want to ask? What's that breakout question? What's that icebreaker question? All right. So once you have that icebreaker question, so if you have something, I want everyone to stand up. See, I told you, right? Already, you're like, oh man, he wasn't kidding. He wasn't kidding. I want you to go find somebody you don't know. And I want you to ask that question. Okay? Go find somebody. You get a couple of minutes to do that. For those on the phone, for those on Zoom, go find a room, click in a room. Someone else, go click in that same room. Go check out and ask that question to the other folks. We can't hear you either, so you're totally fine to talk. Just move into a room, we'll bring you back together.
I think
in the Zoom, just go ahead, click into one of the rooms, double click on a seat, and that'll allow you to go ask that question. If you're not able to do it, just stay in the main room and you can have that conversation as well. I see we've got a couple people who are trying it out.
Yeah, Mark.
Someone else wants to try. Oh, there we go. Moving into different rooms. Now, someone else is go double click on a chair in there. There you go. Now you can have that conversation.
Mark, it's Cliff. Can you hear me?
All right, take a few more seconds, folks in the room.
I will say to everybody, I think.
All right, folks. So those in the room, here's what I want you to do. I want you to find a new partner. You're going to ask your question to somebody else, okay? 2 more minutes. Go find a new partner, okay? Say goodbye to your new friend. Go make another one. Go make a new friend. Ask that question one more time. All right, we're meeting some new people now, folks. We're meeting new people. That's the whole point of these, right?
Well, I figured out how to work it.
Find a new friend, ask that question. If you don't have a partner, just join a group.
I think we're having a technical issue. I will
Take 1 more minute, folks. 1 more minute.
We should be able to move to the other rooms, and I'm seeing an error message. I don't know if any of you have tried to move to another room. You should be able to have a separate conversation. And I'm seeing an issue that I'm trying to troubleshoot for us.
Oh, interesting. I was able to move to a room. So I needed to start the app, needed to click on apps, and then the first time I needed to start the app, but then I was
If you
seeing.
can just clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap 3 times. If you can hear my voice, clap 4 times. There we go. All right, I won't go any further. Beautiful. All right, folks. I love the energy. I love the conversations. Let's go grab our seats. We'll keep on going. Believe me, there'll be more of this. There'll be more. For those on our Zoom call too, you can head back into the main room.
I'm going to be back in 1 second, everybody, to try and see if.
All right. Well, I
can-
hope you all made some new friends. That's the whole goal of the community in my mind. All right. So let's go into this thing. Let's get started. So I got a question for y'all real quick. Who here has heard, beyond me just saying it earlier, heard of the state of teams?
Hi, Cliff.
Awesome. So there's a couple of people like have heard it, but I love it when people are like, I don't know what that is, because it gives me an opportunity to educate y'all on it. Share some of these cool things that we've been finding. So for us, the state of teams is actually a research project that Atlassian started about 2 years ago. And the whole idea of it was, as you think about our mission as a company, it's to unleash the potential of every team. I think we got to know those teams. You got to figure out, how do they work? How do they tick? What's causing them to be awesome? What's causing them not to be so awesome? And so for us back in 2021, we actually decided that we would do an internal project to figure out, like, hey, let's go talk to some teams externally. Let's find out, again, what's helping them, what's holding them back. And then from there, we said, well, we should probably understand some key elements. And so we came up with this idea of a team health index. And we said, you know what, with the research team and staff, we said there are a couple of things that we want to look at to determine if teams are high performing, if they're healthy or not. Because if I just said performance was a thing that determined good teams, that might be biased, because we can know you can push teams through a wall to perform, but it doesn't mean they're in a good shape. So for us, we actually decided that there were 4 elements that made up this team health index. These are things that tells us, how's a team doing? One of them is engagement. Are teams engaged in the work they're doing? Do they like it? Do they like working with that team they're in? We also have this idea of performance. I could have a great time. I could have a great team, but if I'm not getting shit done, that's a problem. So we got to be able to get stuff done along the way. Climate. This is this idea of, it's kind of like a culture, if you think about it. It's the area we work in. It's the bonds between us. Do we have things like psychological safety? Do we have things like an ability to speak up and feel like we're not going to be, getting in trouble for that? And then the final thing here is, we can have all these, but is that sustainable? Are these teams, I think they could keep this up indefinitely, or is this just a flash in the pan? And so for us, when we first started this report, we're like, we want to understand this idea of health. And we believe that if we look at these 4 elements together, that'll actually give us a good indication of really how healthy are teams today. So along with team health, we also decided, well, let's use this opportunity when we've already got the participants we're talking to. Let's decide to ask them about some of the other things out there, some of the big trends that we hear about. We've all heard of the Great Resignation, team dynamics in general. How do teams work together? Things like remote versus hybrid versus in office. Like, let's find out how these teams are actually working today, because we have our own assumptions at Atlassian. We can read the news too, but we want people telling us about it. And so we ran this report 2021. We did this first time in-house. We're like, oh, this is really interesting. We started to get some good insights. After that first one, we said, you know what? Let's do this again, like every 6 months, and actually let's publish it. And so our first report actually came out, I think it was March of last year, so 2022. The first one came out, and it gave some of those initial insights. And then last November, our latest report came out. And for that particular report, we went through and we actually surveyed 1,700 knowledge workers, and we said, all right, around the US, Australia, we said, hey, tell us about this. Again, these aren't Atlassian people. They may not even be Atlassian users. We worked with a third-party company. And from that, we were able to gain some really interesting insights. And so that's really what we're going to dive into the rest of today, is like, what are some of those insights? That gives you a little bit of background. That's where we came from with this. So let's talk about some important findings. So as I mentioned, this idea of team health. Team health on the left here came from that run we did at the very beginning. When we first ran this, we were seeing things like The actual set of healthy teams was kind of low, 17%. That's where teams hit it on all four of those attributes. We actually had a big amount of unhealthy teams. That means you're really not doing good on any of those four attributes. And some people doing in between. Run it again, run it a couple times. November comes around. These are the numbers. 13% of teams are healthy. That's actually a drop in 4%. We see unhealthy teams, though, also saw a drop, even some more significant drop. We're a lot now just kind of getting by. So I always like to ask, and for those on Zoom, feel free to put it in the chat. But I mean, when you see these kind of differences, like I especially like the drops in unhealthy and the growth in partial, what do you think led to those kind of things? As you think about the climate the last couple of years, like what have been some of the things that you've seen in the world that you think, yeah, I can see that doing that? Any thoughts? Yeah, hand in the back. I love that. So for those that you didn't hear that, it's this idea of like people are resigning because they're just not fulfilled anymore with maybe what they're doing. I think that's it, especially with that drop in unhealthy teams. People are like, I'm getting out of here, right? I'm not going to deal with this. What do you think? Oh, I see a hand over here. So much Zoom, I know, right? And you can probably see that with that partially healthy. It's just that, like, I always look at this as they just kind of getting stagnant. You just kind of like, okay, I'll just one more meeting. Hand over there. I think that's another interesting one, especially in this time frame. Is this you start seeing this push for some organizations, definitely saying you will go back to the office so many days a week. Some not so much. I'm actually going to be really interested to see when we run this again. We'll be running this in a couple of months, especially come the beginning of 2023, at least in the US. It actually, like in Detroit, General Motors is a great example, where they basically said, come 2023, January 1st, they changed their policy to bring people back in. A lot of companies did that too. So I'll be really fascinated to find that out. So yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things that you can kind of see in the world around us that can see where a lot of us are just kind of, we're getting by, which isn't a good thing just to get by. All right, so there's a couple other things, and this is where we're going to get into some interactivity here. If I can get my clicker to work. And I think to me, there's beyond the legendary team status, there's also a couple other findings that I think are really great. And there's three important ones in particular. And as you can tell, I haven't told you what those are because I'm actually going to have you go find out what those are and tell us about what those are. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to do an exercise. I want us to go in and we're going to do a teach back. We're going to break into 3 groups. We're going to go out there and actually with the size of it, we're probably going to break into 6 groups and then each group will have 2 of each one. But what I'm going to have you do is basically each group is going to go out there and they're going to find your assigned stat in our state of teams report. Just look up Atlassian State of Teams 2022 on your phone, find 78%. What does that mean? And then be able to go read through parts of the report and find it out. Then you're going to come back and then you're going to say, hey, this is what that is. From there, we're going to determine, again, 2 or 3 bullet points. You can share back, hey, this is what we learned. Here's our assumptions, what we kind of feel about that. And again, the best way to teach back. Oop. Oh, don't look at that. Don't look at that. Ah. All right, maybe I should allow anyone of 78% now. And so basically, then we're going to share with the group. So let's go ahead. We're going to break into 6 groups. For those on the phone, for those on Zoom, we've got about 10 people. Go ahead and break into 2 rooms. You can move into 2 rooms, and we'll do 78% and 42%. Room 1 takes 78%, room 2 take 42%. And move in there and have that same discussion. We're here. Oh, yeah, question. 2022. So, and that should be, you should see it right at the top. It says 2022. So let's go ahead. Let's self-select into 6 groups. So, and then we'll go ahead and sign off. So find yourself, find your group here.
I
into groups.
For the people on I
think this group's going to be fun over here. I'm looking forward to hearing this group. All right. We got the groups. And then I'm going to sign things off. All right. So actually, I think we've got a group here. This looks like we got a group here. Groups there. All right. So I'm going to start assigning some numbers off. So group over here, you guys are 78%. Yeah. 78%. I'm going to bring you all over here. 42%. Sound good? 42. Over 31%. What was that? And so what you'll do, go on your phone, you'll have Atlassian State of Teams 2022. And over here, 42. 42. A meaning of life, right? You know what? I've only had that come up once in this, and I was very disappointed that was the only time. So you got to bring that up as part of your points. All right, I'm going to give you 5 minutes, okay? For those on the phone, again, room 1, you're going to do 78%. Room 2, you will do 42%. Go ahead and move yourself into one of those.
Mark, you probably can't hear us. Just for everybody on the phone, we're having an issue. I can see that for some reason the breakout piece isn't working, so we're one group. So even if you move your
for those on the phone, it sounds like there might be a technical issue out there. For those there, go ahead and just do one room. And what we'll do is you'll do 78%. Okay. So have a general conversation within your group. All right, 5 minutes, folks. 5 minutes.
Jimmy's out. Sorry about the technical issue that we're having.
There we go. As you're doing this, come up with 2 to 3 bullets. Like, what are the things that you want to share about this? What do we need to know?
So I don't know if you've seen it, but the 78% is they're enthusiastic about their work. So 78% of the people surveyed said they were enthusiastic about their work, which felt a little surprising given what we often hear.
We're about halfway done the time. Keep going. Halfway done. One minute. Make sure you assign who's going to be your spokesperson. That's always the question when I get to set group. Who's going to be the spokesperson? Again, 2 to 3 bullet points. Who's the spokesperson, right? I wish I had straws and then people could grab. You volunteer as tribute. Told. I love it. All right, few more seconds, folks. Few more seconds. All right, and for those on Zoom, go ahead, put your 2 or 3 bullet points into the chat. So that way we can report back, because unfortunately we can't hear you. All right, looks like we're good here. We're good here. We're good over here. Let's look. Almost here, almost. All right, what about over here? How we doing? Good. All right, what about over here? Ready to rock and roll? Got your volunteer person? All right, folks, so let's bring it back in. We're going to go ahead and get started. So let's start going through here, everybody. So, all right, bring it in, everybody. Bring it in. All right, beautiful. All right, so what we're going to do now as part of today's teach back is, again, I'm going to hit one of these numbers, and I want you to go, we got a couple groups doing the same one. I want you to again share with us, what is that percent? What does 78% mean? Share with us that. And then also, what were some of the discussion points? What were some of those bullets? So let's start with the groups with 78%. I think we just had one in the back, right? And then we had those on the phone. So go ahead, and actually, I'm going to pass you the mic. Share with the group, what does 78% mean?
Volunteered him to do it.
Nah, it's okay. They already volunteered me too. They know that I like to talk. So 78% was the statistic of how many people, I guess, interviewed were enthusiastic about their current position. Oh yeah, I can. Yeah. Yeah, I've been told I need to come up here. We don't need to record. Yeah, don't need to record that.
I'll bring it over here.
Oh, okay. Wow, this is such a complex operation.
There's a box.
Well-oiled machine. Okay. All right. Yeah. So 78 respondents who were enthusiastic about their work. Our group talked. The first thing we thought of was we were actually quite surprised at how high this statistic was, like the percentage of people who were pleased, which you could call us pessimistic. But when we talked a little bit more about it, we came up with another interesting concept, which is like this was a statistic from 2022, and that was sort of, we were coming towards the end of those heavy lockdowns, moving back into like hybrid work, or some people were coming back to the office full time, some were still working from home. So that sort of raised the question of, well, at what point in their careers or current positions were the respondents? Were they 5 years into their position and they had gone like pre-COVID, maybe they had a couple years of experience, into like 3 years of experience by the time they were interviewed? Were they brand new to their position because they had just resigned and were now doing something that they loved and they were feeling really enthusiastic about it? So I think, yeah, our 2 points were, we were surprised with how high this percentage was, and then also questioning, it would be really interesting to get a breakdown of this 78%, where were they at in their career? I think that was it, right, group? That was it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right.
Any questions for these folks? Ooh, this is why I did tell you that there could be Q&A, right? Ooh. I know, right? That was like, oh, my next person. Oh yeah, we got a question over here.
How did you come up with this answer? Exactly same as on this.
I know, it was magic, right? It was magic. Yep, exactly. What is fascinating is I think some of the things that's some of the conclusions we came to as well, is this idea that, you know, you look at that number and you're like, wow, it's kind of surprising. But you even look at things like Gallup. Gallup has actually seen, although things like engagement might be low, engagement and enthusiasm are actually two different things. And so for them, they actually are seeing some higher enthusiasm because people are moving into potentially new roles. People are finding they're coming out of lockdown. They're like, okay, finding that new vigor. So it's really fascinating to watch those numbers. And we're going to be continuing to measure those over the next cycle, trying to find out some of that tenure too, because that's something we didn't have. And we're like, because we think into the same idea. We're like, well, how long have these people have been at their jobs? You know, maybe it's this great resignation. That's all of a sudden we're seeing the outcome. So, question.
You don't want to give. Oh, you? No, you're good. No, you don't have to come up there.
No problem on a microphone. So do you think that it could possibly also be how workplaces have adjusted where people go to work, meaning they stay home, so now they like their job more because they are home and they don't have to travel, and so now they feel more engaged? I don't know if that was a conversation that was part of it.
Yeah, I guess I'll take this again.
I don't know if we delved into that too much. I think it was sort of it was a part of that second point we thought about, which is like, I think the word you used was good, like the tenure. How long have they been at the company for? Have they only experienced it in COVID? Have they only experienced their current position in a work from home state? I think that's very individual too. Like one person is going to love the fact that they can finish their work, walk downstairs and have, if they have a family, have dinner with their kids, with their partner. I think it's a good one. We didn't delve into it too much at this point, but it's definitely a good consideration. Yeah. We're taking up so much time here. We should, I should stop talking. I told you I was good at talking. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's a good point for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, for those on the phone, did we get any of their notes on 78% there? Because I know they would have came to the same answer, but curious if they had any other bullet points there. You can see if there's anything there. Not yet. All right. I'm guessing we're coming to the same stuff. If you have stuff on the phone, put it in the chat. All right. So next number. So let's see here. If we're thinking about this, folks, we have 42%. Who's my 42%? All right. I'm going to bring up who's my spokesperson. All right. Here we go.
Coming to the square?
Coming to the square.
Am I in the frame? Yes. Okay, perfect. Does the clicker work? We're good?
I think so.
We hope so.
Let's see here.
Maybe.
Maybe. Oh, I'm
Maybe
manual.
we do it.
There we go.
Okay. 42%. So in this report, we looked at 42% of respondents thought that they have struggled with at least some signs of imposter syndrome. That is something that I personally struggle with based on the conversation I had with my team. It is a very universal thing. So it was actually quite interesting. And we saw a few things in the report that resonated a lot with how we feel, but also overall some things that we from the audience kind of figured out as well. I always joke around with my manager and he hates it when I say it, but I'm like, one day you're going to wake up and realize that you hired a baby to do this job and you're going to be like, what happened? Why did we do this? So it was actually quite interesting to see that 42%, which is a pretty large number of the workforce who's been surveyed, exhibits that they sometimes feel a little worried when they come into work, and that they also feel like, oh no, someone's going to realize that they hired a child to do this and it's done. Pull the plug. The department's shutting down. It is over. So actually some interesting things that we saw in there that kind of tied into the whole sense of where the software side's heading, obviously with Atlassian, but where other organizations are going was the idea of innovation. So if a company strives itself on being really innovative, buzzwords like agile, and we are moving forward to a collaborative workspace. If a company is developing and going in a way where sometimes things get a little ahead of themselves, a lot of people feel kind of worried. Oh, am I going to not be able to be innovative enough? And I'm afraid to ask questions because they think that that critique and that sort of appeal to that might have them in a bit of a backseat. So I thought it was quite interesting to see that, and that quite a large percentage also felt that way. And of course, I'd love to hear if anybody else feels that way, or some things that they might feel are happening in their org where they can kind of relate to that.
Great job.
Yes. Did you?
Let's hear what are some of your points?
The battle of the 42%.
Right. So apparently not everybody knows what imposter syndrome is, especially those like older. So that could skew the numbers, right? Also, there were points that it's easy not to feel any syndrome, symptoms when you work at home, when you can wing it, right? You don't have to be in the office, like, kind of feel better, easier, right? More confidence. On the other hand, because you're remote, you might lack that external validation, what you get at the office, which bumps up the number. Right, so those are the addition. Yeah, other people might not like. What is a symptom? Like.
And they feel like, oh, I don't have a voice because it's been done for a while. So I
Everything, right?
I think it's a great point. Let's questions. Let's take the questions in the room here. I'm talking.
All the way up there.
I'm all the way up. Am I
Oh,
actually?
no, you don't have to go all the way up.
Okay, I'll go all the way up then. All right. Well, I did think. No, it's okay. I'm already up here. No, caught red-handed. No, I think the comment about, and this was something I was thinking about before, but I didn't want to talk too much, so I just shut up. But the comment about like baby boomers and different generations, I think is also really pertinent, because when it came to the happiness too, I wondered as a young person in the space, what's the age demographic of the people being interviewed? Because as again, a young person in the space, like the imposter syndrome is certainly something that's real. Learning a lot of what I've learned in my professional life throughout lockdowns and COVID. And then also when it comes to like happiness in your position, is this people who are living paycheck to paycheck in 1-bedroom apartments in massive cities, or is it people who are well established in their lives and have houses and have more space to sort of like relax while they're working from home? So just a small comment on, I think the generation is definitely like a pertinent conversation as well. So yeah.
One thing I'll add is I believe the age range was like 22 to like 64. I have to look at it again. You'll see it at the bottom of the page. So we actually saw a very large demographic in there. But getting into that, I think it's fascinating to see like how that played in. Like, where do you see it skew different ways? You know what? It's interesting. I know, right? Exactly. Like, it's fascinating for me that something like imposter syndrome, again, this was actually a surprising finding for us. We weren't looking for imposter syndrome, but then when we started looking at the set of questions that we asked, we started leading towards this idea that people were kind of unsure of themselves. And so for us, our researchers dug in a little bit more. They did some additional research, and that's where they kind of came to that. So to me, I think we're going to see this play out. I'm actually curious to see if this grows or shrinks over the next run. What do you think? As we think about where we're going, do you think it's going to get? Do you think we're going to see more of it? Do you think it's going to settle in? Yeah.
Could I stand up there as well?
You know what? Go there.
Oh, okay. I'll get in the frame. So I think it will always be there because there are always going to be people who will second guess themselves, but I do have a guesstimate that it will decrease because I do find as we're going into the office more and more, being face to face, and our team was talking about this, being face to face does help with some of the imposter syndrome because there is way more human interaction. Sometimes you can't read people's tones over Slack or over email, and you might think someone is mad at you, whereas they might just be sending you a quick message in between meetings. It's just so easy to get in your head about it versus sitting next to someone in the office. Yeah.
The thumbs up. Don't give me a laughy face. I don't know if that means good or bad. Awesome. Well, give our 42% crews a round of applause. All right, last but not least, we have got 31%. Where's my 31%? Who's my volunteer? Yeah. Woo!
So this is definitely in relation to Zoom meetings. And am I in line? Okay, in relation to Zoom meetings, the number increases with the number of Zoom meetings. This is 20 Zoom meetings per week. So you can imagine burnout will happen very quickly. Do we have any answers to this? We discussed some things that we do personally. I think I do calendar blocking. I don't have 8 meetings per day. I cut it down to 4 meetings per day or 5 meetings. Block your lunchtime, block your mornings, block maybe that hour between 5 and 6. Don't be afraid to cancel a meeting, but it is certainly something that, as we are in a hybrid work environment or remote only, that this is something that's going to become much more important and as we go on. So we have to cancel meetings about meetings. I'm having a few of those already. So any ideas from yourselves, most welcome.
Questions. Oh, come up to the front. That's our motto.
I love
Right
it.
here.
I love it. I'm just glad you're continuing to raise your hand still, even though we're doing it. I'm just excited.
I mean, my question was further than the walk it took me to get here, but is this people with 20 hours of meetings that are showing burnout, or is it causal, like 20 hours of meeting demonstrates burnout?
What, you have an answer you want to add?
I need to look at that.
Oh, yeah, I got it. I got you. So for us, what we're seeing is that people, when we were looking at how much time people were spending in meetings, and we found that those with 20 plus hours of meetings a week actually 31% of those folks were experiencing some signs of burnout in that case. So basically being like, that apathy, that, I can't do it anymore kind of thing. And so for us, that was a really fascinating thing. Now that number does decrease as you reduce those number of meetings. We were seeing, I think the average was 5 hours, which this surprised me. The average number of meetings, I think it was 5 hours of meetings a week, the average participant had. If you were remote, it was 8 hours, which I look at my calendar, I'm like, how is that possible? I don't know. Like, actually, here's a quick little thing. Everyone raise your hand. Lower your hand if you have, how do I want to do this? Lower your hand if you have more than 1 hour of meetings a week. All right. Well, I don't know. How do we do this? What's my logic here, folks? You can tell me. There you go. See, there we go. Those over there. Keep your hands up if you have more than 1 hour of meetings a week. Keep your hands up if you have more than 5 hours of meetings a week. Keep your hands up if you have more than 10 hours of meetings a week. Keep your hands up if you have more than 15 hours of meetings a week. Hands up if you have more than 20 hours of meetings a week. I'm not going to go any further. And the thing is I'm going to add a lot of people are like, oh my God, how do I have meetings? But the thing is I'm also an advocate that meetings aren't bad. It's only when they are bad that they're bad. And meetings actually can be really powerful. And so for those folks who have 20 hours of meetings a week, you may find that these are really good meetings and you get a lot of shit done. The thing is if you go and if half of those meetings are crap, that's 10 hours of your time that's down the hole. All right, we got some questions.
So what I've noticed is that sometimes people can't differentiate their work life with their personal life during COVID. So there's Zoom meetings at work. There's also Zoom meetings for their kids' school. There's also Zoom meetings for their board meetings. There's also Zoom meetings for this. So when they're counting their 20 hours, are they stopping and differentiating my meetings for personal versus and friends? Because at the beginning, everybody was on Zoom and whatever, high five, whatever these things were. Did I say high five? Anyway, so all I'm saying is I wonder how many people are counting their 20 hours and not knowing that, no, that's your personal meeting that you set up versus your actual work meeting.
All right, I'm going to keep us moving on, but let's give our folks a round of applause with our Cruth. All right, great work, everybody. Great work. So these were just, I like to bring these three up because I just found they were fascinating. So like to me, these were selfishly ones I went through and I was like, that's strange. Like that's an interesting thing. So we're going to continue to study each of those and see what comes out of it. All right, so now for the main event, let's talk about legendary teams. I mean, this is what the thing we got you here for. We're going to find out what actually differentiates that okay team from the kick-ass one, the one that is the thing that we all look up to. Because I think for us, we've all been on one of those. Like, we've all had that experience. Who would say you've ever been on a truly high-performing team? Like you feel like you've been there, right? Great. And the thing is a lot of the times, there we go, I see double hands in the back. Yeah. The problem I find with high performing teams is that many a times it's a fleeting thing. It's not something it's something we remember as a moment and not something we're on now or we've experienced a long period of. And it has to do with, certain elements in how that team works that may be missing. So again, we can keep high performance for moments, but if we really want to sustain high performance, for us, there's 4 attributes that we really think that every team would have to exhibit on a constant basis. And this actually came out of our research. So our first time we did this study, we started seeing some data come up. And from that data, we're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like these teams that reported high health were all talking about the same stuff. So we went and we ran the second report. We're like, all right, let's be a little bit more intentional. Let's try a few things out. And we did. And it's still doing the same thing. And so this time around, we're like, all right, let's go ahead and we're going to study this. We're going to find out, are these 4 traits to these high health, high performing teams? And yeah, they were the ones that keep coming up time and time again. And so for us, those 4 elements that we're going to talk about today: alignment, cohesion, psychological safety, and ultimately this potential for innovation. So all of our high performing teams have these in spades. And so today, a lot of times we might look at this and we're like, I don't know, I've got good cohesion or we don't really do good in innovation. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to examine each of these at a high level, what they are, give you a sense of how to understand those. But then most importantly, we're going to share with you how you can unlock some of this in each one of these. So if you have a team that you want to get a little bit more innovative with, here's a way you can do it. Then from there, another thing we're going to do is we're going to play some games to actually exhibit this, see if we can try some novel ways. So again, we're going to keep kind of having that fun together. So let's get into alignment. So alignment is all about connecting the dots to me. It's all about making sure that we know things like, hey, I know what my role is within my team. I have my roles and responsibilities. I can link my individual work to my goals, to the things of the organization. I always like to ask, when you think of the word alignment, what comes to mind? What are some things that come to mind when you think about teams and alignment? Yeah, in the back. Understand about why, what is it that we're trying to do? I like it. I like it. What else? Oh yeah, over here. Understanding, right? I love it. Just throwing in. I love that. On the Zoom, I think I saw someone raise their hand. Is there anybody on the Zoom you want to type in the chat? We can take a
My name is
look in Zoom
Kimon.
and see if anything in the chat coming through.
Can you hear me?
Nothing new. We'll keep a
Can
look
you-
out for it.
Can you hear me?
So Russ, these are just a couple areas that can play into that. Now, one thing I'm including in each of these is something you can then do, like an activity that we at Atlassian do to help us become a little bit more aligned. So let me ask you a question. Who here has heard of the Atlassian team playbook? Decent number of folks. Awesome. So for those who haven't, the playbook is actually something I released, I think it was 2016, somewhere around there. But basically we said, hey, we do a lot of these practices internally to help us perform as a team. Like we should share those. So we documented those and we talk about them all over the place. And one of the ones to me that comes up here is this idea of a project poster. And so the project poster is a play from our playbook that helps kind of what I like to think of as build alignment. The whole goal is to document what are we trying to do. It goes back to the why that we brought up earlier. What are we trying to do? How are we trying to do it? And actually keep that front and center for the team. If you're interested in doing this, we'll send this deck out and everything afterwards, but you can get to these and actually get to play around with it. A really cool story from the first time I ran this is I asked the team, a team that was in Washington, D.C., it's like, hey, who was really the project person? One guy raised his hand really high. I was like, oh, it looks like you got something to say. And he's like, yeah. It's like, I use this with my team to replace that project charter. And what we do is when I start up a space for a project, my space page in Confluence, the very first page I get to is my project charter or my project poster. Because now every time anyone comes to my space, nobody can see what's going on. He says underneath that I put some widgets to add my gym tickets in there and then boom, and that's where people go. And so we keep it updated because what usually happens to a traditional project charter goes in the drawer and you don't see it again. He's like, no, we don't. We want to keep this alive. And that's where project posters are a great tool to do that. So now we're going to get a little bit of activity here. I want to share with you another game to help with a little bit of that alignment thing. And this is going to go into some roles and responsibilities. This is one of my favorite games. It's called the Pirate Ship game. Yeah, you're not having it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into groups, 3-4 people, and I'm going to pass out. I've got a paper here. I want you to do is I'm going to pass these out. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at this picture of the ship. Say, all right, when you think about your role on your team, what number or numbers best exemplify that? Are you number 1? Like I'd say I'm waving the flag. Yeah. Or number 12, like I'm always late. Maybe another story behind it. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to pass these out. We're going to have a 3-4 minute conversation in your group. Talk about what number or numbers you are and why. Share that story. All right. For those on the phone, you'll be able to do just have this as a larger group conversation. Okay, so I'm getting some groups. I'm going to pass these out and then we'll get into that.
Kim, can you hear now, or I don't know if you're. Sorry.
Can you? I can hear you guys.
Yeah. We can try and at least do the exercise as one group. I was going to suggest, I know we're having a bunch of technical, it's hard to hear Mark.
All right, so take 3 or 4 minutes, folks. Have that conversation. What number or numbers best represent your role in your team and why? It could be multiple numbers. I've had some people come up with 3 or 4, so.
All right, who'd like to go first?
It's a lot of numbers to go through.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Also trying to figure out what they're all doing too.
Yeah.
And you can make up a story what they're doing, whether they're doing that or not, right? That's
Well,
number 1 definitely looks like they need help. And number 3.
Number 3 looks like he's having the time of his life.
Right.
Does number 20?
Oh, number 14.
Yeah, number 14 don't look too good.
Yeah. I definitely identify a bit with 16. Being the one is like, guys, there's
All right, take about a minute or two again. What are the rules? Why? What are the things there?
What's number 8 representing? I'm trying to figure that out.
The workers, I mean, the people who are pulling hard maybe is one, like then they're removing the anchor, so maybe they're removing drag. I don't know, that's a removing friction.
Yeah.
I was thinking about 5 at times, like the person running up to always help maybe, or to that, or I don't know what, sort of going up that ladder seems like you're going up to fix something, or yeah.
To be honest, that entire ship looks like what my team is feeling right now. Like there could be one of those, every one of those numbers.
Yep.
I feel like there's definitely someone now that's
Take
crying out
about
for
another
help.
minute.
Please,
All
I
right,
need help.
those last few conversations.
Yeah.
I just noticed 15 looks like they are in a small boat trying to hold back the big boat.
Right.
Or are they firing at the big boat?
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I guess some teams have people that sabotage.
Right.
Self-sabotage unknowingly.
So let's start wrapping up. We're going to come back together. I want to hear some stories. I love it because I always hear laughter here, and now I want to know why people are laughing. It's the best part of this game. All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to start coming back in. Folks.
We just saw
If
11.
you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap 3 times. Beautiful. Good job, folks. Good job. All right, so we've all kind of had an idea of who we are. I'd love to hear a couple of them. What are some of the numbers that you identify with? Might be too close to home too, some of these. Who wants to share? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Woo!
I'm not gonna do all of them. All right. Who shall I start with? I think we'll start with number 2. Number 2 would be our, we call them SDMs, SRMs. You maybe say Scrum Masters, and they're keeping an eye out for us. They're seeing what's coming, any impediments, anything like that, making sure we don't crash. They've designated me as number 6. I don't really know why. I think I'm more like number 7, who's maybe he's enjoying the view and not much else. Our favorite is number 20. That is definitely adaptivist, waiting under the palm tree for the SOS call. That often comes from us. That's a good thing. We pay them to come help us. Like I'm saying nice things. Okay. And I think here, the ones that actually get us going, pulling up the anchor, that's our devs. That's the the analog engine for this kind of digital scenario. So there you go. That's our 4 or 5.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Give him a round of applause. Nice work. Nice work. All right. Who else? So come up. Number 14. Wait, which ones are? Oh, yeah. Exactly. What is that act? What is he doing? All right. Who else? Who else? What identified with you? What do we got? Oh, all right, there we go. I'd love to hear what was the one that resonated most with you in your role?
So I started a new role about 6 months ago with a new part of the Adaptivist. I work for Adaptivist, and it's still in the consulting realm, but it's a new position where I'm learning new skills, trying to climb the ladder of what I know and trying to get to where I want to be. So climbing the ladder might indicate that I sort of consider myself to be, or I like to think of myself as being a number 5. Not necessarily where I want to be, but kind of on like that journey to get where I want to be. And then I think maybe like inspirations would be like number 2 and number 6 kind of thing. And then, we're all sometimes, I don't know, we're all sometimes number 20. You kind of burn out. You just want to relax and not do anything. And sometimes you just can't give a blank about what's happening. You just need to check out for a minute. So I think for me personally, kind of number 5, and then, sometimes I'll admit number 20, just can't be bothered. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love it. That was the first one I've had where it was number 5. I've not had that any of my sessions. So I love that you picked number 5. Oh, you picked number 5? Yes. Awesome. All right. So I love this activity because it is one where specifically if you're struggling with things like roles and responsibilities on your team, this is actually a really fun activity to actually help you start thinking about that. You might sit down with your team and you're like, let's kind of figure out, again, to the statement earlier, like when I come in the morning, what am I accountable for? What are the things you expect of me? Sometimes it's hard to elicit that. Sometimes we have to abstract that. And this is a really good analog to help us do that, to actually say, hey, let's talk about this and document what we say. And then we say, hey, that actually starts playing out to a roles and responsibility sheet. I'm number 6, or I'm number 9. This is why. So I love this game for that fun fact of it. So go out there, play it with your teams, try it out. All right, so yes. So actually what we'll do is it's not on Atlassian anywhere. Little insider tip is we're going to probably be doing this at Team 23. So if you're going to be coming, we're going to do a larger version of this outside. So, but there is a link to how you do it in the materials. So you'll get that. So you can get all the instructions. All right. So let's talk a little bit about cohesion. So cohesion and alignment are different things. And for me, cohesion is all about the mortar in between the things. It's about how we bond together. It's how we come together. It's all about having that shared common goal, that shared understanding, that focus, like we're in it together. It's actually that ability that we're saying, no, we're here to help each other. We're assisting each other to get things done. We're actually concentrating on getting things done because we've got that motion as a team. And ultimately, we're encouraging each other to succeed. So for me, this is a lot of cohesion. It's about that bonding. When you hear the word cohesion, what comes to mind to you when you think about teamwork? So many things, cohesion.
Each other in certain situations, so you're never alone to solve a very specific set of problems.
It's building a team together. So yeah.
Doing every conscious effort required to do that. So even as a manager, you realize that you're much better at certain things. But it means just opening the doors, paving the way, and saying, hey, I think you should try it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the only one, but you also learn something.
All for one for all, right? It's going in there, and how do we help develop each other? How do we help make sure that we have, honestly, when you think about it tactically, it's some redundancies in how we work. If I'm only the person that does X, that means probably we don't have a lot of good team cohesion there. Awesome. Any other thoughts? Oh, yeah. Here, I'll give you the mic. Okay. All right. Yeah. I love that. It's that value. It's the reason for us together working as a team versus just as individuals. And I think that's a good way of thinking about the difference between a cohesion and alignment. We can be in alignment. We can all know what our goal is, but still work as a bunch of individuals in a group. But cohesion is all about saying, well, that group is a team, and we can. What's the phrase? The team is greater than the sum of the individual parts, right? And that's what cohesion does. That's a fair statement. I think you could have what's the word I'm looking for? You can have a feeling of alignment, like we all know where we're going, but you're never going to really get there without good cohesion. Like you'll never have a good quality outcome. Like we can get this thing done, but we're never going to get it done because we're not working together for it. So cohesion's a great area. And if you're struggling at all with cohesion, one of my favorite activities to do from our playbook is the My User Manual play. And so for me, this is all about going out there and learning about each other, because a lot of what cohesion is about is actually getting to know your teammates, is getting to know not just the person that comes in and jumps on a Zoom or sits at a desk, but like really behind the scenes, like what motivates them, what gets them going. So it's a great plan. You can go in there, you use a Confluence template that's built into the tool, and it'll help you answer questions like, all right, when do I work? Especially in a remote world. Maybe my hours are a little different. I've got little kids that get on the bus, so I can't really start till 8:30 in the morning. That's probably something my team should know. I also say things like, what motivates me? What gets me going? What do I like? I actually had a really cool story coming out of one of our customers. If you watched our work life event that we had last September, Dish Network was up there, and they were talking about their experience with our Dr. Wow program, our work doctors at Atlassian. And one of the things they talked about was this aspect that when I was working with them, we ran this. And the manager who had been managing this team for about a year and a half, we ran My User Manual play. We're going through it. One of his team members says, what does he like to do in his free time? He says, I'm a big disc golf fan. I like go to a disc golf course all the time. And his manager looks at him and he goes, really? It's like, I do disc golf too. He says, have you ever been to this, this place? And he says, I was there last weekend. He's like, holy cow, I was there last weekend too. Some of these people have been working together for a year and a half. They realize they got some shared common kind of love of something. And that just brought that cohesion a little bit closer together. So I love that story just because it helps demonstrate that we're more than just the work we do. We're the people. Now, cohesion is also about helping to listen to each other. It's all about being part with each other. And so for me, the activity I like to run now is a little improv. Anyone heard of last word, first word? Oh, this is gonna be fun. I don't see a lot of people like, oh, what is this? So you get into pairs or triads, or you find a partner. And what we do is when we do this, the first person will start telling a story. And so whenever you finish off that first sentence or so, your partner has to start their sentence with back and forth until I tell you to stop. Makes sense. And yeah, tell a story. Tell a story. See if you can keep it on target. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It's all about no longer can you stay right here. You have to be present. All right. So find a partner. Everyone go ahead and find your buddy, and then I'll let you know when to start. All right. Everyone finding a buddy. If it's on the phone, we got about 6 of us out there. Go ahead and go around that 6-person group. We all find a buddy. We've all got a partner. And if you don't, if it's a triad, that's totally fine too. All right. I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock. You have 2 minutes to tell a story. All right. Your time starts now. Remember, last word, first word. Yeah, whatever your last word is, he's got to start out with that's his first word. Yep. And actually, if the 3 of you can, you're going to go back around in a circle.
Has anyone been able to get these breakout rooms to work? Yeah.
I didn't try again through the app, but if you Kim and I just used the Zoom go to breakout room. And I have a feeling what might have happened with the app is when you first join, it mutes you. And I don't know if there's a way to unmute. Cliff, you are muted.
Sorry, there's
That's
clearly a connection issue.
There we go.
with
Keep on
app
telling the story. He's got
breakout
one.
room, So I was just
One more
trying
minute.
to reinforce what you said, which was we can just use the breakout room and pick a room to go to. I don't know. We were looking at this behind the scenes, why it's not working, but it's not as simple as that right now.
Okay.
So if people want to pick a room, you can just use breakout and join those rooms. So I'm going to go over to room 2, and if anybody does want to join, we can try it.
Sure.
Nice work. It's good work. All right, you can all make it back to your seats now. I love that. I love that little improv game. All right, so I got a question for y'all now. So just show of hands. Who here did your story end when had you stop still in the same area as where you started? Oh, I love that. Drastic changes, right? You're talking about beer and then you went to ducks or something like that. You're like, I love that. Now, why do you think I would have you do a game like that? What comes to mind? Killer. Yeah, exactly. I just see the kill time. I just see the kill time. Actually, it's a great way to kill time. But that wasn't it. Listening. I heard that. So one of the biggest things that we find when it comes down to cohesion is listening. And this is a great demonstration of what good listening can really look like. If you're in the coaching space, they talk about this idea of 3 levels of listening. Level 1 listening is when I'm talking to you and I'm starting to think about what I'm going to say before you're done. Because you said something like, oh, let's go produce, let me tell you about this. And I'm no longer with you anymore. That's level 1. Now, level 2 is taking it to a much more personal level. It's saying, I'm going to listen to you until you're done, and I'm going to let my thoughts form then. That way I'm with you in that conversation. This is what this game is designed to do, is help bring you to level 2. Now, level 3 is taking level 2 and now taking into your surroundings, your body language, things like that. So when I'm listening to you and you're like this, you might be talking and saying stuff, but I can tell that something's maybe you're holding something back. Maybe you're not feeling so hot today. And so level 3 is about getting that deeper level. Teams with good team cohesion exhibit those level 2 and level 3 listening levels. So again, if you ever need to practice with your team, try improv. You need to get some time, try improv. I love it. All right. Next one, psychological safety. This is a hot topic that's been out for the last couple of years. And I'm going to give you a definition of what psychological safety. What does that mean? I see a hand back. I was like, well, I was going to wait to see if anyone else did, but I will totally take your hand.
Constructive criticism for your team, positive things about your team, and not feeling as if there's like, I don't know, pressures to abide by certain customs just because this, like if you're a new joiner, just because those 5 people have been working together for like 5 years already, creating a psychologically safe space would allow for that new joiner to still speak up and feel as if their thoughts are heard.
Yeah, and feel like they're on the outskirts, right? And so for people who didn't hear that, it's that idea of having an open environment of what you feel, and not just, it's easy to say one that's open. Well, this is one that truly can only happen through demonstration. It's that ability to say, hey, I've got an opinion, and being open to that. More importantly, it's I screwed up, and having like people like your manager say, cool, thanks for letting me know. Let's keep moving on. The moment the psychological safety is one where you don't feel like you're in danger. And for me, I think, again, people like we here can help build psychological safety, but it really does take leadership. It takes management to help maintain it. Otherwise, all of a sudden I come in, I says, that's great, but you're going to do this now. I've just destroyed that psychological safety in the room. And so for me, I think that's a really important thing. So for any of us who are leaders here, lead even just one, like a small team, it's incredibly important for you to help create that space. Question. I love that. And so psychological safety is not the idea of just not bringing up controversy. It's bringing it up or bringing up saying, hey, no, I think you're wrong, but doing it in a way where I don't feel personally attacked. It's like, hey, yeah, you thought about that. And you're like, oh, yeah, I do, but this. And I'm like, oh, so it's not about who's right and wrong, but it's about how we work together. I love that. And so for us, that's what a number of these things, again, you can see this on the screen. It's encouraging people to speak up. It's encouraging us to actively participate and actually help people feel recognized. And you can do this through even some activities too. And actually, one of the things I like to bring up here is one of our plays, and it's really not a play in that you don't actually run this in 60 minutes and say it's done. But it's something that you can employ in any meeting you're in, is this idea of inclusive meetings. So in the playbook, one of the biggest things we like to emphasize is like, how do you help people, especially in a remote world, feel like they can contribute to a conversation? So many times we get on that giant Zoom call and we're just sitting there, we turn our camera off and, it's like, oh, they're not gonna listen to me. How, as we as facilitators, as facilitators for those meetings, how do we help people feel like they're part of that? And inclusive meetings provide some great techniques for that. Things like, setting up like meeting expectations, like, hey, here's how we want to participate, actually doing working agreements with the team, and actually helping as a facilitator think about how do I not let the loudest voice in the room speak, but get others to do it as well. I actually ran a activity similar to this with one of my old teams. I worked at actually to Ameritrade in the US, and one of my team members, I was a scrum master, he was a developer, real quiet guy, brilliant guy. And what I found is we were trying to solve a problem. And I knew that if I just went and asked, and I was like, all right, how do we fix this? What are we going to do about this? He wouldn't say anything. He would be the one that just like, oh, I'm going to let these other folks who are pretty loud in the room talk. And I was like, we got to come up with a better way. So I actually use this liberating structure. It's a set of techniques out there, and it's called one, two, for all. And the idea was, I said, all right, each of us individually, we're going to brainstorm, figure out how we'd solve this. Then we're going to get you into pairs. We're going to battle it out. Whose idea do you want to take forward? In the quads, and you're going to do it again. And then ultimately, you're going to come back to the group. We did this. Whose idea came to the top? One individual that's usually pretty quiet. His name is Kyle. And it was fantastic to see him feel like, wow, they listen to me, but it needed creating of a space, a technique to help him to do that. So again, think about different ways that you can help bring about people and include them in these conversations. So the activity I want to do here in psychological safety is built on trust. It's also built on gratitude. If you read the report, one of the biggest elements to psychological safety is expressing gratitude. And so what I want us to do is I'm going to pass out some stickies and some pens, and I want you to take 2-3 minutes. And I want you to reflect on someone who may have helped you this week or last week, that maybe it was something small, but it was something that you're like, I should say thank you to them. They would probably appreciate that. I should write 1 or 2 sentences. The kudos is something small. So we're going to pass out some stuff. I just want you to silently reflect. What's someone I want to say thank you to? What is it that I want to say thank you for? Okay. All right. So we're going to pass these out. Got some over there. Beautiful. I'll pass it along. I'll be ace there. The message. We got some pens. All right, who needs pens? Come up with that reflection. Who do you want to say thank you to? What was it they did? Doesn't have to be anything big. What if there's nobody? I'm going to challenge you on that one. If nobody you want to say thank you to. Again, take 1-2 minutes. What is it that you want to say thank you for? Could be something small. Someone could have actually just got you your coffee and you're like, hey, you know, I never said thank you for that. Those on the phone, do the same reflection. You know, who's somebody you want to say thank you to? It doesn't have to be anything big. Don't look for that monumental thing. Like, oh my gosh, that's the beauty of a kudos. All right, take about another minute. Oh, that's a special moment right there. I love that. I love it. I love that. I love that. All right, so wrap up those thoughts. Who's that kudos for? What was it? So as you're kind of thinking about this, wrapping up those thoughts, the thing I'll say is that this was good. I'm glad you had the chance to write something out and say like, hey, this was someone I wanted to say thank you for. But this is only impactful if you do what just happened right there. And that is the, hey, here's your, I want to share this with you. It doesn't have to be the sticky. You could just write it in a Slack message or send it in a text or an email, but tell them that this thank you, because it's amazing how things like psychological safety, how things like this idea of imposter syndrome, all of this is tied to this idea of gratitude. So can we all do that? Can we all say we're going to thank somebody this week? Yes, I love it. Good work, everybody. Good work. Okay, let's bring it in. We're almost home, and then we've got bacon pizza afterwards. All right, so the last topic we have tonight, potential for innovation. I love this one because this is all about this. This is something that we can develop, but it's also about making sure that we're conscious of the team we're working on and what we're capable of. It's all about making sure we have the right mix of skills. We might be able to innovate, but we maybe don't have all the right talent on our team. It's also encouraging people to ask questions, think outside the box, brainstorm a little differently. It's about cooperating and developing new ideas together. So what kind of potential for innovation? What do you think of when it comes to teamwork? What do you think of with innovation and that potential? What do you think? Yeah, that's a hand over there. I love that. So for those of you here, a lot of times we assume innovation has to be something massive. It has to be one of those like life-changing things. Most innovation is small, it's micro, but it's pushing forward and trying it. It's being that willingness to try something new and do those small tweaks. A lot of innovation is that. Do you see, how many times, as a Scrum Master coach, you go into like retrospectives. How many times did you say at a retrospectives or have been in a retrospective that you may have had a really good conversation, but you didn't take any action? I mean, I'm willing to acknowledge that. I've been in those that have we had a really good conversation, but nothing happened of it. That team lacked innovation because guess what? We had really good group therapy, but didn't really take anything further. So for us, innovation is everything. And so for us, if you're struggling with this at all, one of my favorite plays is this idea of disruptive brainstorming. So we've all done brainstorming. You've all done that thing where someone says, hey, take 2 minutes and write down as many ideas as possible on these stickies or this mural board. And we try to innovate through that. We can say, oh, yeah, that's how we're going to do it. The thing is that's kind of not very innovative anymore, right? We do that all the time. We're not coming up with fresh ways of thinking about it. And so for disruptive innovation or disruptive brainstorming, it's all about how can we change the brainstorming process. So this is actually a great exercise you can run. Let's say if you're you need to come up with some new ideas, try this out. It's all about coming up with some ideas, shifting those ideas, having someone else brainstorm on your ideas, changing them. It's adding a little bit of chaos in there to help you kind of trigger some of that spark of innovation. So I absolutely love this activity if you find yourself stuck. Now, a lot of times we might find ourselves stuck because we don't have our minds in the right spot, right? We're like, okay, I got to brainstorm. How do I get those innovative juices going? And so for me, I actually like to run an activity. It takes 1 minute, it's really fast. And I'm going to have you all try it. And it's called 100 uses for a paperclip. So what we're going to do is we're going to play this. And I want you to get in pairs or triads. And it's going to be a competition, okay? So it's going to be a competition. What you're going to do is I'm going to give you 60 seconds. And you're going to go back and forth with your team and come up with as many ways to use a paperclip. I've had people come up with things like, well, it's a hair tie. I could put it on my watch as a watch band. I could put it as a necklace. I mean, just the list goes on. So you have 60 seconds to come up with as many as possible. And the thing is you don't have to write them down. Just take a tick mark. I just want to get a number at the end. Okay. So go ahead and find a partner. Don't start, but find your partners. Okay. And then I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. No shooting. Those on the phone, you can as a large group. All right, no cheating. Everyone got your partner. Now, what you need to do is make sure you keep track of how many you come up with, okay? So I'm going to put time on the clock. Your 60 seconds starts now. As many ideas as possible for a paperclip. How many can you come up with?
I can count by now.
Yeah.
Screwdriver.
Yes. SIM card opener.
Hair clip.
Seconds left. As many ideas as possible.
Slingshot.
Toothpick.
20 seconds.
Belt in place.
Thumbtack.
15 seconds. 15 seconds.
Key.
Yeah.
Open a lock.
Instrument.
Open it.
And that's time. All right, pencils down. All right, so what I want to do, I want to call out your numbers. So we're just going to walk around the room. I want to find out how many uses of a paperclip we came up with. So we're going to come over this way. We have 8, 11. Okay, nice. We got 9. Oh, we got tie. 12. What do we got over here? 22. Oh, someone went over the money. 7. We're gonna do some solid 8. Those are really good ideas too, right? Really good ideas. I love it. Anyone else I miss? Anyone else I miss? 100. I love it. It's like, you call me a liar? Awesome. So how many, what do we got on the phone? No, yes. All right. So what do you think? So 22, that's awesome. So how many do you think is the most I've heard? 60 seconds. No, I've never heard that many. 33 was the highest I ever got. And so 22, that was one for the money there. It was like, that was one of those things where when it was funny to watch those folks go, it was my first one. And you just saw them go back and forth. It was like watching table tennis. They just kept so. And the thing is I loved about this game is you could see how you started with an idea of like, how am I going to come up with this many ideas? And then you did. And this is how you get those kind of, again, those innovative juices going. So if you're ever going into a brainstorming session and you're like, I need these guys to really think outside the box, take the first 60 seconds, break into groups for this. It's amazing the differences you'll see. Work. All right, folks. So let's take this thing home. So we talked about 4 traits of legendary teams. What were they? So number 1, alignment. Number 2, cohesion. 3, home. Potential motivation. There we go. I know, right? Great work, folks. So for us, again, those are the 4 traits that really high-performing, healthy teams exhibit. So as you're looking at your teams and you're thinking about how do I help my teams get better? The thing is just like we talked about with innovation, it doesn't have to be this big thing. It could be micro things. And so each of those plays, each of those little games we played are ways that you can go out and try that out. And so a couple of calls to action at the end of this thing. First, you've already had a chance to look at that state of teams. Go through the rest of it. At the end, we give some more tips and tricks to help you take advantage of this. Really good data. You can also subscribe to our Work Life blog if you haven't already and be notified when our new one comes out. We're actually going to have the new one coming out in time for Team 23. So we'll get some new insights there. Another big thing I want to call out is we've got our Team 23 event, a big, yearly event that's coming up in April. Well, one of the things that we're celebrating, of course, is teams everywhere. And so we have our team awards. Those nominations are open until the beginning of February, and we encourage all groups to submit. And the thing is don't just worry about your group. Just like we did with the kudos, if you work with a really kick-ass team, nominate them. They would talk about the feeling that they would have. We're like, wow, I was nominated to be like for this award. It's amazing to do that. So go and it takes about 15 minutes, nominate, add some details. We'd love to see those. And finally, I'll leave this up. This is if you want a copy of the slides, this does take you to a Google form where you should be able to just add your name, your email. I will send those out afterwards. If you want to get more information, you can also get my email and contact information for that too. Oh, question. Oh, you can put it on the thing. Beautiful. All right, cool. So if they're going to put it on the thing, then we should be set. So if you go to the community page, you should be able to get that. And with that said, that's all I got, folks. Thanks for having me out tonight. I truly appreciate it.
And
Didn't I tell you he's my favorite Atlassian? See, now you guys all know why, right? So thank you all for attending. Just a couple of quick things. We will have the slide deck up. We will have the recording up if you want to share it out. Mark already alluded, Atlassian team is back. They just opened it up, so you can register for that. It is April 17. It's April, so plan around April for Vegas. It's a great time. If you can go, we will have some discount codes, so Susan will put those up once we get them. And we'd like a big shout out to Mike and Online. Thank you for managing that and all our folks who stayed with us online. And I think that's it.
Big thank you to Harp and Adaptivist and Sable for sharing your wonderful space with us. And being such enthusiastic participations. For the community, for the Toronto community, we're working on 2 upcoming events. One of the next one's going to be a virtual event. And it's going to be another Canadian cross Canada virtual one. Stay tuned. And then we're hoping that we'll be back here on April 13th, just right before Team for a big event. So make sure that you're signed up onto our community so that you can get all the notifications. Thank you. Pizza and beer in the kitchen, everyone. Thank you.
And I do want to take a moment to thank you guys here joining us on the call. So Kim, Cliff, Mary.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you all.
Nice to meet you, Cliff.
Yep. Nice to meet you.
Oh,
so
appreciate it. And sorry for the technical difficulties we were having, and we'll try and get to the bottom of them, but thanks for your patience.
yeah, no worries. It's fun beta testing too. So
pop off now. See you guys.
Yep.
Take
Thanks,
care,
guys.
Tim. I'll talk to you later.
Right now.